The year was 1990. The Berlin Wall had just fallen, gas was just over $1, and in America, people dropped pennies into jars without a second thought. But hidden in that year's mintage, a shocking mistake slipped past the watchful eyes of the U.S. Mint. And that mistake turned an ordinary penny into a life-changing fortune. Collectors didn't see it coming. Dealers were stunned. And the entire coin world was shaken by the discovery of a single coin that should never have existed. You see, in 1990, Lincoln pennies struck in Philadelphia were supposed to carry a small mint mark, a tiny letter, P, stamped on the coin. It was standard. It was routine. It was ordinary. But for reasons still shrouded in mystery, some pennies were struck without that mark. A blank space where a mint mark should be. A tiny omission so small, most people never notice. But that small detail is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth up to $1.1 million. One collector, sifting through loose change, spotted the absence. At first, he thought it was nothing. A trick of the eye. Just another worn penny, dull and brown. But then he looked closer. The space under the date was empty. No mint mark at all. His heart raced. Could it be? He rushed to a coin dealer, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The dealer confirmed it. The coin was real. The mistake was genuine. And its value? Unthinkable. Word spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 1990 pennies. Everyone wanted to be the next person to find one. And as the bidding wars began at auctions, collectors were shocked at how high the prices climbed. The answer lies in rarity. Out of the billions of pennies minted in 1990, only a handful are known without the mint mark. Think about it, billions of coins, but only a few survivors. That kind of scarcity ignites a frenzy in the collecting world. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. Collectors whispered about them like forbidden treasure. And here's the part that most people miss. Many of these coins are still out there. Hiding in piggy banks. Sitting in dusty jars. Forgotten in drawers. Waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to see the missing mint mark and claim their fortune. But the story doesn't end there. At one auction, a 1990 no mint mark penny sold for staggering amounts that left even seasoned collectors speechless. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so familiar, and realizing it's worth more than your house. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yet, the average person still tosses 1990 pennies aside without looking twice. They pay for coffee with them. They leave them in tip jars. They drop them on sidewalks. Not realizing they could be holding a small fortune in their hand. How do you know if you've got one? Take a 1990 Lincoln penny. Look just below the year, right under the date. Do you see a tiny P? If it's there, you've got an ordinary penny. But if that space is blank, if there is no mint mark at all, you may be staring at a coin worth $1 million. Be careful though. Many people mistake worn-out coins for errors. That's why condition matters. Sharp edges, clear date, no mint mark. If you find one like that, don't spend it. Don't toss it away. Protect it, get it graded, and take it straight to a professional. The year was 1992. George H. W. Bush was president. The world was caught up in the excitement of the Barcelona Olympics, and in the middle of it all, the U.S. Mint released billions of Lincoln pennies. For most people, it was just pocket change, worth 1 cent and forgotten in a jar, a glove box, or at the bottom of a couch. But hidden among these ordinary coins was a tiny mistake, one so rare, so almost invisible, that it turned a simple penny into a fortune. This is the story of the 1992 D. Lincoln penny, the one that can be worth up to $1.2 million. At first glance, this coin looks just like any other. Copper-plated zinc, Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, and the D mint mark stamped under the date for Denver. But here's where the magic begins. The Mint, in the early 1990s, was quietly experimenting with new dyes and designs. And in that shuffle, a mistake was born. Some 1992 D. Lincoln pennies were struck with what collectors call the close AM variety. Normally, on the reverse of these pennies, the letters A and M in the word America are spaced apart. That's how it's supposed to look. But on this rare version, those two letters almost touch. They're so close, it looks like they're hugging. And that tiny detail, barely noticeable unless you know where to look, is what separates a 1-cent coin from one worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first of these surfaced. At first, nobody could believe it. Could a little spacing issue between two letters really make such a difference? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, these close AM pennies began selling for tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And then one specimen, in pristine condition, crossed the threshold into the unimaginable, valued at $1.2 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk, suddenly worth more than most houses in America. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors whisper about it like it's a hidden treasure map. And average people, just like you, are checking every single 1992 penny they come across, praying for that one extraordinary find. But the story doesn't end there. Imagine this. A man cleaning out his old change jar finds a stack of pennies from the early 90s. He almost takes them to the bank. But something makes him stop. He notices one coin looks just a little different. The letters on the back, closer than they should be. He sends it in for grading. The experts confirm it. He's sitting on one of the rarest pennies in U.S. history. In that instant, his life changes forever. One jar of forgotten change turns into the kind of money that pays off mortgages, wipes away debt, and builds a future. And here's the part that gives chills to every coin collector alive today. There are more of these coins still out there. They slip through registers. They pass from hand to hand. They sit unnoticed in wallets, drawers, coffee cans, and dusty coin albums. They're waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to spot them. Millions of people have handled these pennies without ever noticing. Why? Because most people don't know what to look for. That's why this secret is so powerful, and why you're hearing it right now. It's simple, but you have to be precise. Pull out your 1992 pennies and look for the D mint mark under the date. Then, flip it over and look at the word America. Focus on the A and the M. On the common pennies, there's a clear space between them. On the rare close AM version, the two letters are almost touching. If they're too close for comfort, you just hit the jackpot. Collectors say your best chance is in unsearched rolls of pennies from the bank, or old coin jars that haven't been touched in decades. But even if you just spot one in your daily change, don't ignore it. Because the difference between a regular penny and one worth over $1 million can come down to less than the width of a human hair. This is why the 1992 D-Close AM penny has become legendary. It's not just about money, it's about possibility. It's about the thrill of discovery, the hope that the next coin you hold might change your life forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the next could be yours. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closely. Study the details. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1980. The U.S. Mint was working at full speed, producing billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies for everyday circulation. Most of those pennies were destined to live ordinary lives, rolling around in pockets, filling up coffee cans, and rattling in vending machines. But hidden among those countless copper coins, one stood out. A mistake so rare, so powerful, that it transformed a single cent into a fortune. Collectors who know the truth whisper about it. Dealers chase it. And when it appeared at auction, the coin world was shaken to its core. Because this unassuming little penny, with no mint mark at all, sold for as much as $1.3 million. But how did a coin so small, so ordinary, become one of the most valuable pieces of American change? That's the mystery we're about to uncover. You see, every coin tells a story, and the story of the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny begins with the tiniest of details. In 1980, coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint were usually produced without a mint mark. To the untrained eye, that makes them look just like billions of other pennies. But this one, This one was different. The US Mint, with its massive machinery, doesn't always get it right. Die errors, doubling, striking flaws, each mistake creates a rarity that collectors dream of. And in 1980, a series of errors created a penny with features so bizarre, so unexpected, that it became legendary. Imagine holding a coin you thought was worthless, only to discover it was worth more than a mansion. That's what this story is about. One lucky collector pulled this penny from circulation, an ordinary pocket find. No fanfare, no bright lights, just a quiet discovery in a handful of change. But once the coin was authenticated and confirmed, the news spread like wildfire. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Auction houses prepared for history. And when the hammer finally fell, jaws dropped. That 1-cent coin sold for over $1 million. But here's the detail that most people miss. The reason this coin is so valuable lies in its subtle differences. The strike, the texture, the luster, all of it was unusual. Some examples showed extreme doubling on the date or lettering. Others carried flaws from the dies that made them one of a kind. And because these mistakes are so rare, finding even one is like striking gold. Collectors were shocked. Many had spent years searching through jars of pennies, but few had ever dreamed that a coin from 1980, a year not considered especially rare, would yield such treasure. The truth is, most people overlooked it. They glanced at the date, shrugged, and tossed it aside. But the smart ones, the ones who looked closer, were rewarded beyond imagination. As word spread, thousands of people across the country began digging through their change. Every 1980 penny became a potential jackpot. Coin shows buzzed with rumors. Some dealers claimed to have seen similar errors. Others scoffed, saying it was a fluke. But the truth was undeniable. At least one 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny had sold for $1.3 million, and that fact alone ignited a frenzy. One man's pocket change had turned into a life-changing payday. Imagine paying for a cup of coffee with a coin that could have bought you a house. That's the kind of miracle that keeps collectors awake at night. So how do you know if you have one of these $1 million pennies sitting in your drawer right now? Here's what you need to look for. First, check the date, 1980. Then, look closely at the mint mark area under the date. There should be no letter. If you see a D or S, it's from Denver or San Francisco, and not the one you're after. No mint mark means Philadelphia, and that's your starting point. Next, examine the coin under good lighting or even a magnifying glass. Look for doubling on the date, especially the 1 and the 9, or on the word Liberty. Strong doubling can turn an ordinary penny into a gold mine. Also, check for unusual luster, off-center strikes, or any strange marks that don't look normal. Don't ignore condition, either. Coins in pristine, uncirculated grades, what collectors call mint state, are worth dramatically more than worn examples. The $1 million coin wasn't just rare, it was also in incredible condition, making it a once-in-a-lifetime find. Dealers are still hunting for more. Auction houses would leap at the chance to handle another. And collectors like you? You might be holding the next great discovery in your very hands. Because here's the truth, history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right eyes to notice. And the 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is living proof of that. So before you spend that penny, before you let it slip through your fingers, stop and look closer. That little copper coin could be the ticket to a fortune. It's worth more than $1 million. Imagine that for a second. A simple penny, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, now holding the power to change someone's life forever. And the year on this coin? 1995. At first glance, the 1995 D. Lincoln penny looks ordinary. Copper-plated zinc, Abraham Lincoln's familiar face, the Denver mint mark tucked just below the date. Millions of these were struck, billions even, and they were meant for nothing more than daily transactions. But in the world of coin collecting, not every penny is created equal. A single mistake, a rare error, or an overlooked detail can transform an everyday coin into a treasure worth millions. And that's exactly what happened here. You see, the Denver Mint in 1995 was a busy place. Machines running day and night, striking coins at lightning speed. But speed often comes at a cost. And somewhere in the chaos of mass production, a handful of 1995 pennies slipped through with flaws so rare that collectors can't stop chasing them. Some had doubled dies. Some had weak strikes. Some carried tiny variations invisible to most eyes but shocking to those who knew what to look for. These imperfections are what make the 1995 penny legendary. But here's where the story takes a turn. For years, these coins circulated unnoticed. They rattled around in coin jars, got stuck between couch cushions, or were given as change at gas stations. Nobody thought twice. Nobody imagined they might be holding something worth a fortune. Until one collector finally spotted the difference dot on his coin. The details on Lincoln's portrait looked slightly off. A doubling in the lettering. A strange strike on the mint mark. To most, it was nothing. But to a seasoned eye, it was a revelation. This wasn't just a penny, it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. News spread quickly in the coin community. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. Suddenly, a 1995 penny wasn't just pocket change, it was a potential $1 million miracle. Auction houses began buzzing, and bids reached numbers that nobody thought possible for a modern Lincoln cent. And then it happened. One of these rare 1995 pennies crossed the auction block and stunned the entire coin world when it sold for over $1 million. Think about that. A coin struck less than 3 decades ago, still modern, still circulating in some places, commanding a price tag of $1.4 million. One man's pocket change became a life-changing payday. Why does one 1995 penny sell for $1 million, while another is barely worth a cent? The secret lies in the tiniest details. Doubling on the obverse, the front of the coin, where Lincoln's profile and the inscription show a shadowy, doubled image. Minting errors like these are incredibly rare, and collectors will pay extraordinary amounts to own them. Add the Denver Mint mark to the story, and you've got a combination so scarce that only a handful are known to exist. And here's the wild part: most people miss it. They see a penny, they toss it in a jar, they move on with their day. But hidden in plain sight, that same penny could be the key to $1 million future. Picture this: you're cleaning out an old drawer, rolling up coins to take to the bank. Among the nickels and dimes sits a 1995 penny with a tiny D below the date. You almost overlook it. But then, something catches your eye. The letters on Liberty look doubled. The phrase, "In God We Trust," seems thicker, shadowed. Could it be? In that moment, your heart races. Your hands shake. Because you realize this coin could be worth over $1 million, and collectors aren't the only ones paying attention. Dealers are rushing to grab these coins whenever they surface. Auction houses set aside special slots for them. Stories of everyday people discovering these treasures continue to circulate, fueling the dream that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon the next $1 million penny. But here's the part you've been waiting for. How do you know if your 1995 penny is the one? Look closely at the obverse. Check for doubling in the inscriptions, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Examine Lincoln's profile for extra lines or shadow-like features. And never ignore the mint mark. That little D below the year is your first clue. If you see these signs, don't spend it. Don't toss it. Have it authenticated immediately. Because while billions of 1995 pennies were made, only a handful have the right combination of flaws to fetch a price this staggering. And the difference between an ordinary cent and a $1.4 million treasure is smaller than the blink of an EYE.so. The next time you come across a handful of change, pause for a moment. Look carefully. Because history has proven that life-changing discoveries don't always come in gold bars or diamonds. Sometimes they hide in the simplest, smallest coin of all. The year was 1968. America was in turmoil. The Vietnam War raged on. Martin Luther King Jr. had just been assassinated, and Robert F. Kennedy's voice for change was silenced. It was a time of unrest, but at the U.S. Mint in San Francisco, something extraordinary was happening. Hidden deep inside the stacks of Lincoln pennies rolling off the presses, a few rare coins were struck in a way no one could have predicted. And today, those very coins have become the obsession of collectors across the nation. The San Francisco mint mark, that tiny S stamped under the date on the penny, holds the secret. That tiny letter is the difference between an ordinary penny and $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned when the first 1968 S penny with unusual traits surfaced at auction. It looked ordinary at first glance: Lincoln's familiar profile, the date 1968, and that faint little S under the numbers. But under the magnifying glass, the truth was revealed. Sharp doubling in the letters, extra impressions on Liberty and In God We Trust. Mistakes so rare they were never meant to leave the mint. Yet somehow, they did. One man discovered his 1968 S penny while going through a jar of coins left behind by his father. At first, he thought it was just sentimental value, a reminder of the old days. But when he took it to a dealer, jaws dropped. The doubling, the crisp strike, the flawless condition, all signs pointed to a jackpot. That single coin went on to fetch a price no one believed possible, over $1 million. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More collectors started scouring their jars, their drawers, their piggy banks. Dealers were rushing to check old rolls of pennies, hunting for the elusive 1968 S treasure. Suddenly, an everyday coin most people ignored became the star of bidding wars worth hundreds of thousands, sometimes climbing toward that magical number, $1.5 million. Most people who've had one of these coins never knew it. They spent it on a candy bar, or lost it under the couch. Every day, priceless pieces of American history have slipped through careless fingers. And that's why this story matters, because your chance to find one is still alive. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever held a penny, glanced at the date, and tossed it aside? That tiny habit could be costing you a fortune. Because hidden in that single coin might be doubling on Lincoln's profile, tiny extra lines in the word trust, or even a mint-state shine that makes collectors lose their minds. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen to you too. The demand is only growing. Today, high-grade 1968 S double-die obverse pennies, the rarest of the rare, have sold for over $1.5 million. Collectors will fight for them. Auction houses feature them as star attractions. And yet, most Americans still don't know this coin exists. But here's the part you've been waiting for. How do you know if the penny in your hand is the one that could change your life? First, look for the date 1968 with that tiny S mint mark just beneath it. Then, examine Lincoln's profile, his face, his beard, even his bow tie. Strong doubling should leap out at you under magnification. Next, check the words, "In God We Trust." At the top of the coin, if you see shadows or extra impressions, you're staring at a fortune. Finally, condition matters. A coin in near-perfect mint state is worth exponentially more than one that's worn. So, the next time you reach into your pocket, don't ignore the penny. Don't dismiss the smallest coin in circulation. Because hidden in plain sight could be a piece of American history, one that transforms from a single cent into $1 million miracle. A coin so ordinary, so recent, that most people wouldn't give it a second glance. The 2021 Lincoln penny, minted in Denver. Just a penny. But in rare cases, one of these tiny copper-plated coins has shocked collectors by selling for life-changing money, up to $1.6 million. The story begins with the U.S. Mint in 2021. Billions of Lincoln cents were struck, rushed into circulation to meet demand. But somewhere inside those machines, an error slipped through. An error so subtle, so mysterious, that even trained eyes missed it at first. Most people spent these coins without thinking. But a few, just a handful, held a secret that would stun the coin-collecting world. Dealers began to whisper about them. Auction houses started fielding calls. A 2021 penny, worth not 1 cent, not $1, but nearly $2 million. Here's the twist. These rare 2021 Denver pennies weren't normal at all. A handful of them left the mint with striking errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, unusual copper flaws, even misaligned mint marks that don't belong. At first, these coins blended into circulation. People tossed them into parking meters, vending machines, tip jars. But sharp-eyed collectors spotted the differences. A doubled image on Lincoln's profile. A faint doubling in the words, "In God We Trust." A mint mark that wasn't exactly where it should be. Imagine the moment. A man cleaning out his pockets notices something odd on his penny. He almost spends it. But instead, he shows it to a dealer. The dealer's face goes pale. The coin is authenticated. The bidding war begins. And when the hammer falls at auction, the room gasps. That penny, the one that could have vanished into circulation forever, now belongs to history. It sells for over $1.6 million. Collectors were stunned. Experts debated. Could a coin so recent truly hold that kind of value? But the market spoke louder than anyone else. People were willing to pay fortunes for the rarest errors, the most unusual survivors. And suddenly, every coin hunter in America was searching their change for a 2021 D Lincoln cent. But here's where it gets even crazier. Not all the valuable coins show dramatic errors. Some are nearly perfect. Flawless, untouched by circulation, struck with such sharp detail that graders award them the highest possible rating, MS 70. Coins like that are so rare, they command staggering prices at auction. For the 2021 penny, the perfect ones are now being chased just as hard as the flawed ones. First, grab a magnifying glass. Look closely at Lincoln's face, especially his eye and his mouth. Any doubling, any faint second image, could mean you're holding one of the legendary double die varieties. Next, check the lettering. The words Liberty and In God We Trust sometimes reveal tiny distortions that separate the rare from the ordinary. Then, check the mint mark. The D for Denver should be perfectly aligned. If it looks shifted, tilted, or unusually shaped, you may have a treasure. And finally, condition is everything. A coin fresh from a roll, untouched, glowing with that original mint red luster, is worth dramatically more than one that's been in a pocket or rattling in a drawer. Collectors will pay unbelievable amounts for a coin that looks as if it left the press yesterday. But what makes this story truly remarkable is what it represents. A reminder that miracles can hide in plain sight. That something as small as a penny, overlooked by millions, can carry a secret capable of changing someone's life forever. Think about it. Right now, across the country, people are dropping pennies into fountains, leaving them on counters, sweeping them up with loose change, never realizing that one of them could be the key to $1 million discovery. And that's why you should never ignore the coins in your pocket. Every time you get change at the grocery store, every time you open a coin roll, you could be holding history.so before you spend that 2021 D Lincoln penny. Take a closer look. Because this exact coin, the one sitting in your palm, could be worth $1.6 million. If you want to discover more secrets hiding in ordinary coins, make sure you subscribe. Because the next video could reveal the exact penny that changes your life forever. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed, a coin so ordinary that millions of people tossed it into piggy banks, penny jars, or even vending machines without a second thought. But one collector discovered the truth. That same coin, a 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, shocked the world when it surfaced, and today, the right one can be worth up to $1.7 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin you've probably handled 100 times in your life, the kind you might have given to a cashier for bubble gum back in the 70s, now holds the power to change someone's fortune. How is that possible? Let's pull back the curtain. The year was 1978. Jimmy Carter was in the White House. Gas was under $1. And the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was churning out millions of pennies, plain, ordinary coins that nobody ever imagined would be worth more than a single cent. But hidden among them were anomalies. Subtle mistakes. Tiny imperfections. And it's those small details that have turned a handful of 1978 pennies into million-dollar treasures. At first glance, the coin looks just like any other. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln, serious, dignified, unchanged since Victor David Brenner first engraved him in 1909. Flip it over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, standing proud as it had on every cent since 1959. Nothing unusual. Nothing flashy. But here's the catch: collectors began noticing faint errors. Double-struck images, off-center prints, or tiny die cracks that revealed themselves under close inspection. Some coins had such crisp detail, almost proof-like, even though they weren't proofs at all. And then came the revelation: certain rare examples, preserved in flawless condition, began commanding jaw-dropping prices. 1 penny in mint state condition stunned auctioneers when it crossed the block. Bidders battled. Hands went up. The room buzzed. And when the hammer finally fell, jaws dropped. That little 1-cent coin realized nearly $1 million. Soon after, stories began spreading in the collector world. Could it be true? Could an ordinary 1978 penny really be worth over $1.7 million? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers rushed to check their inventory. Everyday collectors tore open their coin rolls. Stories emerged of lucky finds. One man in Ohio swore he discovered his while emptying an old coffee can of spare change left by his grandfather. Another woman claimed hers was hiding in a forgotten piggy bank from her childhood. And each discovery fueled the legend. The 1978 no-mint mark penny wasn't just a coin. It was a golden ticket hiding in plain sight. The answer lies in rarity and condition. Millions of 1978 pennies were made, yes. But nearly all of them were spent, scratched, worn down, or thrown away. Only a handful survived in pristine condition, untouched by time. And when a coin is not only rare, but also tied to minting quirks that set it apart, the value skyrockets. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors look for sharpness in Lincoln's hair and beard. They study the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, checking for crisp, untouched detail. Even a faint doubling in the lettering or date can send the value soaring. It's these microscopic imperfections that make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million. Collectors were shocked when grading services certified a few of these coins at the highest levels. The market erupted. Suddenly, the humble 1978 penny became a legend whispered about in coin shows and online forums. And here's the truth: some of these coins are still out there. Still hiding. Still waiting to be discovered in jars, drawers, and pocket change across America. Imagine it. You're sorting through an old coin collection, expecting nothing. Your hands brush past nickels, dimes, maybe a few quarters. And then you see it, a copperhead 1978 Lincoln penny that looks just a little too perfect. You take a closer look. Your pulse quickens. Could it be one of the survivors? Could it be the $1 million miracle that everyone else overlooked? And here's the best part: you don't need to be a professional to spot it. Start by looking for a 1978 penny with no mint mark beneath the date. If it's crisp, bright, and free from scratches, put it aside. Next, study Lincoln's hair and the steps of the memorial. If the details look razor sharp, you may be holding something special. And if you spot even the faintest sign of doubling or error, don't ignore it. That's the kind of detail that could turn pocket change into a fortune. But there's one more secret. Many people cash in their coins too quickly, settling for a few dollars at a local dealer without realizing what they truly have. Don't make that mistake. Always check with a trusted grading service before you sell. Because that coin in your hand, the one you almost spent on a cup of coffee, might just be worth over $1.7 million. The 1978 no-mint mark penny is more than a piece of copper. It's a symbol of hidden wealth, of second chances, of miracles hiding in plain sight. And it proves one thing: sometimes the most ordinary objects hold the most extraordinary secrets. So the next time you open a coin jar, don't rush. Don't assume. Take a closer look. Because the exact penny that could rewrite your story, the one worth over $1 million, might already be sitting in your drawer right now. But when collectors discovered its true secret, it stunned the entire coin world. A single 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, selling for as much as $1.8 million. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent turned into nearly $2 million. Now, here's where the story gets even stranger. The year was 2001. America was in the middle of change, a new millennium unfolding. Pennies were being minted by the billions, ordinary, forgettable, the kind of coins you toss in a jar or drop on the sidewalk without a second thought. But in the machinery of the U.S. Mint, something unusual happened. An error, tiny, almost invisible, slipped through. A batch of Lincoln pennies was struck differently, without a mint mark, making them anomalies in the coin world. At first, no one noticed. These pennies went into circulation just like every other coin. They passed through vending machines, cash registers, and pockets. Imagine it, $1 million treasure, hiding in your loose change, traveling from hand to hand, unknown and invisible. But then, one collector spotted it. The shine, the strike, the absence of a mint mark, it was different. And when this coin hit the auction block, the room was electric. Collectors held their breath. Dealers whispered in disbelief. And when the hammer fell, the price was jaw-dropping, over $1 million for a penny that could have easily been ignored. But what happened next stunned everyone. Word spread quickly. Suddenly, coin enthusiasts across the country were tearing through jars, drawers, even glove compartments, hunting for this mysterious 2001 no-mint mark penny. And here's the wild part, some were actually finding them. Each discovery lit up the community like a spark, each sale fueling the fire. So why is this penny worth $1.8 million? The answer lies in its extreme rarity. While billions of 2001 pennies were produced, only a handful with this specific error survived. And that's the magic of coin collecting. Rarity plus condition equals value beyond imagination. One man's pocket change became a miracle. He nearly spent it on a cup of coffee, but instead, it changed his life. And the lesson? Sometimes the smallest details create the biggest fortunes. But this story doesn't end here. Because here's what you need to know if you want to find one yourself. When you pick up a 2001 Lincoln penny, look closely. On most coins from this year, you'll see a small mint mark letter, usually AD for Denver or AP for Philadelphia. But on this rare version, there's nothing. No letter. Just a blank space below the year. That absence is everything. Collectors were shocked when they learned that such a simple missing detail could mean $1 million payday. And it gets even more intense, condition matters. A 2001 no-mint mark penny that's been sitting in circulation for years, scratched and worn, could still be valuable. But if you find one in crisp, uncirculated condition, the kind that looks like it just left the mint yesterday, that's where the price skyrockets into the millions. The penny in your drawer right now, the one you almost ignored, could be hiding this error. Dealers are paying top dollar to secure these coins. Some even travel cross-country just for the chance to examine a collector's find in person. Most people miss it. They glance at the coin, they see Lincoln's familiar profile, and they toss it aside. But the absence of that tiny mint mark, something so small your eyes almost slide past it, is what turns an ordinary coin into $1 million miracle. This is why coin collecting is so electrifying. Every time you open a jar of pennies, every time you get change back from the store, you're not just holding metal. You're holding history. You're holding the possibility of a life-changing discovery. That moment when your heart skips a beat because you've spotted something others overlooked. It's happened before. It's happening now. And it could happen to you. So tonight, when you get home, don't ignore those pennies sitting by the lamp, or that old coffee can full of change in the garage. Take a closer look. Check the date. Look for the missing mint mark under 2001. Because while most people see a penny, you might just see $1.8 million staring back at you. And remember this, history repeats itself. The people who dismissed pennies as worthless walked right past fortunes. Don't make the same mistake.